Hello, Jim. How you doing this evening? I'm on for just a few minutes talking about how to start writing your first book. Just to tell you a little bit about myself, I've written 7 books which are on Amazon. 6 of those books are under my pen name of Bart Gnarly. They're zombie books, and they've done very well. I also have another book on Amazon, which is it's called Black Cone, and that's under my real name, Brian Moorhead. Black Cone is not a zombie book. Alcohol helps, yeah, it helps me too. I've written some of my best stuff after a few shots of hooch. So yep, I agree. I like a little shot of whiskey when I write. It gets me in the mood. Yeah, I haven't smoked weed since college. And not that I don't want it. If it became legal again, if it becomes legal in Florida, I'm going to get it. All right, so as soon as it becomes legal, I'll get it. Otherwise, I'm going to have to wait. But anyway, the writing process. I do tell beginning authors who ask me these questions. I think it is important to develop your style of writing, your structure. If you're already strong as a writer, then you can plunge ahead and start writing your book. You can organize it and just plunge ahead and write a rough draft and go through it and edit it and publish it. When I wrote my book Black Cone, that's the one I spent the most time on. Hello, Mexico. Greetings from Orlando. Glad you speak English. No habla español. How you doing, man? What's up, Joe, my friend? How you doing? Hope you're not bored today. Pompano Beach in here. All right, cool. We're talking about writing. People want to write. No, not Black Cone. Black Cone. C-O-N-E. Yeah. I don't write about that kind of stuff. I'm a fiction writer. Hello, Karen. How are you? It is great. I am doing very well with my books on Amazon, and people have asked me, and I like helping other writers. Oh, cool. All right. I'm glad you're having a good time, Joe. All right. I've seen some of your posts where you're really bored at work. I can relate. Sometimes I'm bored at work too. But I'm glad you're not bored tonight, my friend. I'm glad you're having a good time. But when I write books, you'll find that writing a book is a really immersive process. When I wrote my book Black Cone, C-O-N-E, like I said, I spent a year writing that. And I had to do rough draft, rewrite after rewrite after rewrite. And it was a very frustrating process because it was a difficult book to write about a global pandemic. And I was very naive when I started writing that book. I'd written other books that were much simpler. That one, I kind of bit off more than I could chew. And it was really tough, so I had to work very hard to get it right. And then I did it, and the end result turned out pretty good, I think. But my books, you can check them out on Amazon. They've got good reviews. And I'll be glad to answer anybody's questions. If you want to write a book or a story, and you have any specific questions about the process, I can probably advise you because I've written quite a book. Karen, what are you interested in writing? Do you have a genre in mind? Do you have a story in mind? Tell me a little bit about what you're aspiring to do. I think you first have to decide what kind of writer you want to be, and really, the more specific, the better. Are you a romance writer? Are you a comedy writer? Are you a science fiction writer? That's pretty much fits me. I'm a science fiction writer. I write zombie stories and I write science fiction stories, and that sums it up pretty good. I'm not ever going to be a romance writer. It's outside of my wheelhouse. Well, God saved your husband. Christmas. Well, that's great stuff. I think there's a big demand. That's wonderful stuff. And why don't you tell me just a little bit about it? Was it like a miraculous thing that happened that saved your husband? Less traveled. Interesting. Well, Karen, that sounds very interesting. What I would advise you to do is I'll just tell you how my writing process works. I think every author goes about it a little bit differently. He got really sick all of a sudden. My goodness. Blood clot. Wow. That's scary. Yeah. That's a frightening thing. Blood clots can be very serious. And live through lots of prayer. Well, the power of prayer has certainly worked in my life. And I think there's a big demand for that. So I would strongly encourage you to write that kind of a book. I think, go ahead and start writing it. It's true to life, and you have a clear idea about what you want to write. Where you begin, I think for me, some writers like to write it down as an outline before they start. I work a little differently. I work from an outline, but the outline is in my head. And I will ruminate a story. Yes, that sounds great. I will ruminate a story in my mind for quite a while before I actually start writing it. And so I'll think about a story for several months, or sometimes, in the case of my story Black Cone, I spent over a year thinking about the story before I started writing it. And the end result turned out quite differently than I originally planned. I had a concept in mind, but then when I actually started typing out the story, and the story started manifesting, it turned out quite different, and different in a good way. So I think you have to have the initial thought process. A true life event bio. In my opinion, that type of writing is easier to do than what I do, because I'm a fiction writer. I have to make it out of whole cloth. I have to make up a whole story. Writing a true story, I think you already know the facts, you already know the characters, you already know what happened. So I think you just have to write a sequence of events, and what you probably have to do is go through it. And some people like to do a recording at first, or others will just sit down and start writing out a rough draft. If you're not an experienced writer, I would go through and write a rough draft. You already know the story you want to write. So that's a very good start, and you already know the facts of what happened. So you start at the beginning and start writing, and as it goes, you start rewriting and editing, and have your husband and other people read the work and offer suggestions. And writing is not a pretty process, really. You have to, how long does it need to be? Well, I can tell you that my book, my books are usually fairly short novels by comparison. Um, I think my longest novel um, is about 60,000 words. Some people can crank out 100,000 word novels. My other book, Black Cone, that I wrote, it's only about 45,000 words, but it took me a year to write because it was a very difficult story. So, with a story that you know how to write, if you want it to be a full-length novel, yes, you should definitely start from the beginning in a true-to-life event. They're going to want to know what happened when. They're going to want to know it in sequential order. So when you're writing a true story, you're going to want to start from the beginning and go through what happened and tell it in a way that interests the reader. What do I do once you get some done? What you do is you get feedback from others, have some other people read it and offer suggestions. See how your story flows, look at your sentence structure, make sure that it's good. You already say you're a good writer. If you're a good writer and you already know the story you're going to write, more power to you. You're already there. All you got to do is start doing it. You've got the story. You're a good writer. You know the sequence of events. All you have to do is decide to do it. I think the type of story you're writing there is interesting to me. I think there's a lot of people who like spiritually based works, and I think that's the way you're going to have to market it to spiritually based readers. And the more precisely you do that, the better. I would say once you've started writing a few chapters of it, give it to some friends and tell them, listen, don't worry about hurting my feelings. I'm going to be publishing this, so I'm going to hear the truth. So don't be afraid to hurt my feelings, because if it's not good, you need to know. When I wrote my books, I had to tell people, listen, I know we're friends, or I know you're my brother, my father, whatever, but I want you to be brutally honest with me. And if it sucks or if something's wrong, you need to tell me, because the readers out there are not going to be shy about what they think of your work. Once your books have been published, believe you me, readers are going to be very blunt and honest about what they think of your work. And if your book is, you're an artist too, so maybe add your artwork in it. Well, gosh, Karen, you're the whole package with that. You sound like you've got it all together. That's great. You've got a story, you've got the way to illustrate it. You've got your husband who lived the story, so it sounds like you've got a good premise for a book. So you just really need to make the decision to start writing it and spend the time to do it. And I would say make it a goal to write a certain number of words every day. Carve out an hour. As far as publishing, here's my thinking on that. In this day and age, you really don't have to go through a publisher anymore. You can publish your work directly on Amazon. That's what I've done. Publishers are going the way of the dinosaur. You can direct publish stories yourself. That's what I've done. My books are doing very well on Amazon. My books have not been picked up by a publisher. I'm self